It was Vice President Joe Biden who's kind of in the minority of people this morning who think that President Obama was the big winner in the debate last night. Listen.
If you just finished watching the debate like I did, I'm sure you're as proud of President Obama as I am. You know, I've been saying for a long time, this election presents the starkest choice in my memory. And I think the president did a wonderful job in making it clear just how stark that choice is.
Well, I think he's right about the election presents the starkest choice in his memory. Polls, though, and pundits on both sides don't agree with the other parts of what he said. Much of the debate focused on economic issues. Lots of the buzz is that Mitt Romney came out strong, while it was President Obama who actually was not strong. Let's bring in the man who advised President Obama for years about the economy. Austin Goolsbee is a former chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors. It's nice to have you with us.
Great to see you.
I'm going to run sort of pieces of the debate last night, and then we'll open it up for discussion. The first interesting conversation, I thought, was this $5 trillion tax cut. Let's play what the president said. Let's play what Mitt Romney had as a rejoinder, and then we'll discuss.
Governor Romney's central economic plan calls for a $5 trillion tax cut on top of the extension of the Bush tax cuts. That's another $1 trillion, and $2 trillion in additional military spending that the military hasn't asked for.
My number one principle is there'll be no tax cut that adds to the deficit. I won't put in place a tax cut that adds to the deficit. That's part one. So there's no economist can say Mitt Romney's tax plan adds $5 trillion if I say I will not add to the deficit with my tax plan. My plan is not to put in place any tax cut that will add to the deficit.
So walk me through how that could work. How can both of those two sound bites be true? Can you cut $5 trillion, not raise taxes, and make up enough money to close that gap?
I don't think so. I certainly would, if you walk through the numbers, I don't. I thought in that, at that moment in the debate, I thought Mitt Romney was trying to make news, that he was saying, okay, look, if it actually adds up to $5 trillion, then I'm just going to scale it down rather than keep going ahead with the tax cut. I thought, in some sense, one of the weak spots there for the president was he didn't go after it more, and it kind of descended into this in-the-weeds discussion about scoring and different different nonpartisan centers that had evaluated them. But I think fundamentally that comes out of the debate as a substantive point that Romney may end up regretting, because they're going to go back and they're going to say, now hold on, you specifically said you would cut this tax, this tax, this tax. They add up to $5 trillion. How can you pay for that? I think that will linger a bit.
Austin, the only way he's ever going to pay for that if somebody asks him specifically, what loopholes and deductions are you proposing to do away with? And the president didn't ask that question. In fact, no one has really pressed him on that.
Chris Wallace has, actually.
They pressed him. And I think the bigger issue is you could take every single deduction there is, abolish them all, and it doesn't add up to $5 trillion.
No, I can't agree with you on that. There have been many studies that suggest you can find loopholes. The Tax Policy Center analysis that you're now referring to was incomplete, and they've revised it since then.
I'm not just referring to that analysis.
In the debate last night, Governor Romney actually did talk about how he would eliminate some deductions. Remember, he talked about he'd have a bucket that you could fill up with
No. What he said in that bucket was, he said, okay, let's just make up a number. Here's what the number is.
He said it could be $50,000. If you capped deductions at $50,000, you're not even in the ballpark of $5 trillion.
It was not a specific. It was not a specific. What are the actual loopholes? And I think that was part of the issue there. Also, you talk about the economic issues. He kept hitting the president on the $90 billion, and he said we could hired 2 million teachers when it came to environmental concerns. But the president never responded to it, not one time.
Yeah. You used that figure twice, by the way.
On that note, not to put you on the spot, but you know the president well. You know the president well. You were one of his top advisors until like 5 minutes ago. What happened? Where was he last night?
He looked tired to me. I mean, and I think a lot of people said that it felt like, I don't know, you could see Mitt Romney had prepared, was crisp, was right on. This felt more like a guy who hasn't debated for 4 years to me. I mean, it looked like he wasn't honed, he wasn't in fighting weight on those points.
Isn't that inexcusable on his prep team? I mean, the Romney team didn't make it a secret that they've been preparing.
They've been prepping all along. Look, I mean, the thing is, ultimately, it's partly the fault of the prep team, but the president's got it. It's difficult after 4 years. You haven't debated. It's a different format, but he's got to step up and do that. On the $90 billion, for clean energy stuff. Even there, I think what Mitt Romney was referring to were loan guarantees, where obviously it doesn't cost $90 billion. If the loan guarantee is on a $90 billion size loan, it's only the loss rate times $90 billion.
Also, in the $90 billion, it also went to parks and other efforts as well. It wasn't just to those particular companies.
Yes.
That's why he was wrong.
But so the president just didn't make that clear, and I think the bigger thing was the Medicare charge. You know, the $716 billion.
We talked about that earlier. And sort of a surprise.
And granted, it was usually piled on with 3 or 4 things at the same time, and so the president was kind of responding to the first 2 of the list. But the fact that you got to the end and hadn't refuted that, I think, you know, it was Romney looked strong, and it seemed like the content, which is where the president was going to try to make up the difference, ended up getting muddled and kind of down in the weeds. And I think on a lot of the facts, the president was correct, but it was so intricate that it was muddled.
Austin Goolsbee, always nice to have you. Thanks for being with us. Appreciate it. Got to take a short